Anything but her.
Oh, man, what happened to my clip? It was my frickin' setup.
You blew it.
No, don't tell me I blew this. Oh, here it is. Gosh, damn.
Almost.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Here we go. Here it is.
It's very funny. Someone who's not a scientist telling a scientist what to do.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Nation episode 666.
This is No Agenda.
Celebrating the Mark of the Beast from FEMA Region 6 in the capital of the Lone Star State, Austin, Texas. The Beast is already playing tricks on me. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where the Beast is always at work in the Berkeley area, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
In the morning to you, and hail Satan, John. Hail Satan.
Hail Hydra. Yeah.
But here's what's interesting about this London thing. It immediately has moved a whole bunch of things into action, I'm convinced this was a setup. Even more so when we learn that this guy who chopped up a body and there was no blood, his hands were colorized on the video. There's some videographic evidence of this now. That there's an original video that you can see, and then the video where his hands, and it's not dripping with blood, it's colorized. It's almost like It's a Wonderful Life. And this guy, and by the way, he's just talking to the camera. I mean, what is this? People just walking around. There's no head separated from the body. There's no blood flowing anywhere. There's no blood stains left after the fact. The whole thing is incredibly sketchy. And then it turns out that the Secret Services tried to recruit him as a spy, and then the guy who was telling this on BBC Newsnight got arrested.
It's already known that Michael Adebolajo, one of the two suspects, was known to the security services. But what's emerged now is an allegation that MI5 tried to recruit him as a spy. In an interview with the BBC's Newsnight programme, one of his childhood friends, Abu Nusayba, says Michael Adebolajo was approached by them around 6 months ago after a trip to Kenya where he claimed he'd been arrested and attacked.
He mentioned that initially they wanted to ask him whether he knew certain individuals, basically. That was the initial issue. But after him saying that he didn't know these individuals and so forth, what he said is they asked him whether he'll be interested in working for them. He was explicit in that, he refused to work for them.
The BBC doesn't have any way of verifying the claim. After the interview, Abu Nusayba was arrested at the BBC in relation to suspected terrorism offences.
Yeah, I'll say. Hey, you can't say that on television. You're under arrest.
Wow. You got one there.
Isn't that amazing?
That's unbelievable.
So they had approached the guy. He says, no, I'm not really interested in doing that. And then I guess they mind control him or whatever. And he's like, okay, I'll do this one play then, okay. And then he does it, and then his buddy goes, hey, man, that's weird. And then it's like, whoops, he's gone. And then, of course, we have immediately the elites jump into play. There's, of course, we had this big protest, which changed overnight, obviously. So now we've got a real tension going on. And when that happens, then rules start to get implemented, changes come. Here's, I think, Theresa May, the Home Secretary, who, of course, knows that it is obviously the Internet that can radicalize thousands of people.
People will wonder, is it really necessary to have new laws in order to stop people standing on the streets of Britain calling for the beheading of soldiers? Or is it just that those laws are not being implemented?
Well, I think the task force, which is going to be able to look across the whole of government. I've talked to you about the PREVENT programme in the Home Office. We need to look across institutions like universities, whether there's more work we can be doing in prisons. But yes, we do need to look at the powers. We need to look at the laws. We need to look, for example, at the question of whether perhaps we need to have banning orders to ban organisations that don't meet the threshold for prescription. We need to look at organisations outside government as well.
I love that, the threshold for prescription. Whatever it means, it's a show title.
What government is doing across the various departments, like the work of Ofcom, for example. These are issues that are being...
Ofcom is the British FCC.
Okay, so
Ofcom, let me just be clear. You're talking about, in other words, internet hate preaching, or what's shown on television? What would you like the communications regulator to do?
One of the issues we need to look at is whether we've got the right processes, the right rules in place in relation to what is being beamed into people's homes.
What's your instinct?
The No Agenda Show is clearly being beamed at people's homes, and it is an outrageous program.
Mrs. Thatcher used to talk about the oxygen of publicity. Yeah. Is your fear as Home Secretary that we, the broadcasters, that the internet service providers have provided hate, if you like, the oxygen of publicity?
Hate.
There is no doubt that...
Could I have 3 ounces of hate from you, John?
Oh, let me see if I have any in the cupboard.
People are able to watch things through the internet, which can lead to radicalisation. What we do is we have a referral unit, which members of the public and organisations...
A referral unit?
...are able to refer into that unit when they've got concern about what's being broadcast across the internet, and a significant...
Broadcast! This is so wrong on so many levels.
But since that unit was set up in 2010... something like 5,500, 5,700 separate pieces have been taken down off the internet.
Oh.
But we need to look at this...
It's removed forever, I tell you.
This, as I say, we need to see if we should be doing more. We need to see if there are additional steps we should be taking to prevent radicalisation.
Yes, prevent radicalisation. When did this term, radicalisation, I mean, we've tracked it for many, many years now, but didn't we used to have, like, just different words for this kind of stuff? Like, what were we using? I mean, radicalization. Wasn't just troublemaker? Didn't we used to have radicals? We had anarchists. We had communists. We had witches. Maybe witches. Their self-witchalization. Okay. It's just that now it's when you hear someone, and this is in the UK. And I'm sure that our program will be cut off there first. No doubt. When it's like, oh, well, clearly there's beaming through the internet. It's beaming into your home. The self-radicalization tactics. Being beamed. These people have no clue when you talk like that. Beamed. This internet, what a truly beautiful... Did you ever think, John, and you really... I mean, just people... It's the complete minority media, but because there's so much minority media altogether, which makes up the mainstream, it kind of looks like that's the truth. But obviously, we know that other things are taking place, and there's an alternative distribution of which the best podcasting universe is a part of. So Dick Durbin... brings back the old meme, which we've heard several times now, about the Constitution. Of course, the First Amendment would be the right to free speech, the right to a free press. It's number one in the Constitution because I think it probably was an important one. They said, hey, you know what? Let's make this number one. But obviously, John, as you know, that was written 200 years ago, and, free speech was different then.
Comfortable with the idea that the president has asked the Attorney General to review the Attorney General's own actions.
Well, you've raised an important point, and I heard Senator Graham call for special counsel. I'm not ready to do this at this moment. I'd like to know if Holder has any conflict in here beyond what we've heard when it comes to the Fox case. But here's the bottom line. The Media Shield law, which I am prepared to support, and I know Senator Graham supports, still leaves an unanswered question, which I've raised many times. What is a journalist today in 2013? We know it's someone who works for Fox or AP, but does it include a blogger? Does it include someone who's tweeting? Are these people journalists and entitled to constitutional protection? We need to ask 21st century questions about a provision in our Constitution that was written over 200 years ago.
Oh, there you go. It's time for the T-shirt. I tweet, therefore you can kill me. think the definition of plotting means that you're hunkered down in the sand and you're drawing in figures in with a stick. Like, okay, here's what we do. Here's the plan. I'm over here, you see, and we've got
go deep.
We got the American citizens over there, and we're going to go over there and we're going to kill them with this. I don't know. We're going to kill them, and this is my plot. So a plot, even if I'm talking to other people about it, it does not warrant the death penalty. But okay.
That's who Anwar al-Awlaki was.
Aha.
He was.
It's time to roll out that clip where we hear the president tell every representative of every country that they are our number one ally, and they're all punching above their weight.
It's fairly typical of the way that Danes have punched above their weight in international affairs. I've said this before, but I want to repeat. Norway punches above its weight. We have no stronger ally than the Netherlands. They consistently punch above their weight. Ireland punches above its weight. It's a small country. The Philippines is not the largest of countries. In using a phrase from boxing, punches above its weight. We have no stronger ally than the Netherlands. We have no stronger ally than Australia. Poland is one of our closest and strongest allies. Great Britain is one of our closest, strongest allies. As I said earlier, Germany is one of our strongest allies. This state visit reflects the fact that the Republic of Korea is one of our strongest allies. Israel is one of our strongest allies. France is our oldest ally.
La France est notre plus ancien allié.
And continues to be one of our closest allies. Italy is one of our strongest allies. Japan is, of course, one of our strongest and closest allies. If there's a need for a rescue mission, when the world is threatened, when the world needs help, it calls on America. And that's the story.
We're big Indian givers is what we are.
A free and prosperous nation, the greatest in the world.
See, this is what, if Kim Jong-un stands up and says, we're the greatest nation in the world, everyone goes, shut down, sit up, a-hole. But when Obama does it, it's okay? No, I don't think it's good for anyone to say we're the best in the world. It's just, this is not modern anymore. This is not modern speak.
At a time when only about 1% of the American people bear the burden of our defense.
Oh, I see.
That's not true.
And we're all leeching. We're just leeching off of their true dedication. And that's not true. You're right.
The service and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform isn't always readily apparent. And that's partly because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen are so skilled at what they do. It's also because those who serve tend to do so quietly. They don't seek the limelight. They don't serve for our admiration or even our gratitude. They risk their lives, and many give their lives, for something larger than themselves or any of us.
See, that is also just not true anymore. I'm sorry. I speak to these men and women. It's a job. It was probably the only job that they had in many, many cases, or it's a family legacy, because you've got families who are bakers and families who are military men and women, and it's a job. And right now they hate you. They hate your guts. I'm speaking on behalf of the American men and service women who tell me they hate you. They hate you for what you're making them do, for how long you're making them do it, for the unclear reasons that they're doing it, and you're screwing them right now and taking away their money. They do not like you, and this is not going over well, this little Heil speech of yours.
The ideals of liberty and justice that make America a beacon of hope for the world.
No, it's not a beacon of hope. You can't get in. You got to have Ausweis, all kinds of papers. It costs thousands of dollars. And then you get in here, and then you're just treated like a slave. That's not true anymore.
That's been true throughout our history.
Up until, like, George Bush the First, maybe.
From our earliest days, when a tiny band of revolutionaries stood up to an empire, to our 9/11 generation, which...
Oh! Oh, our 9/11 generation. There it is.
That's a good one.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. You're the 9/11. You used to be the Pepsi generation. Now you're the 9/11 generation, which means forever you will be terrorized by your government with the thought that if you don't stand up and if you don't have the ultimate dedication, like the 1% of the people who do, then you're just a leecher and you're not here for the best country in the universe. This makes me sick.
Continues to serve and sacrifice today. Every time a threat has arisen, Americans have risen to meet it. And because of that courage, that willingness to fight and even die, America endures.
John, this is sickening. Tell me I'm not crazy.
Not crazy.
That is the purpose of Memorial Day. To remember, with gratitude, the countless men and women who gave their lives so we could know peace and live in freedom. And we must do more than remember. We must care for the loved ones that our fallen service members have left behind. We must make sure all our veterans have the care and benefits they've earned and the jobs and opportunity they deserve.
Then why don't you start doing that?
We must be there for the military families whose loved ones are in harm's way, for they serve as well. And above all, we must make sure that the men and women of our armed forces have the support they need to achieve their missions safely at home and abroad.
All right. So
safely at home?
Yeah, oh yeah, their mission safely at home.
What mission do they have at home?
Well, let's listen again.
The jobs and opportunity they deserve. We must be there for the military families whose loved ones are in harm's way, for they serve as well. And above all, we must make sure that the men and women of our armed forces have the support they need to achieve their missions safely at home and abroad.
Yeah.
The young men and women I met at the Naval Academy this week know the meaning of service. They've studied the heroes of our history. They've chosen to follow in their footsteps, to stand their watch, man a ship, lead a platoon. They are doing their part, and each of us must do ours. So this weekend, as we commemorate Memorial Day, I ask you to hold all our fallen heroes in your hearts, and every day, let's work together to preserve what their sacrifices achieved, to make our country even stronger, even more fair, even more free. That's our mission. It's our obligation.
Is to make us more free.
And it is our privilege as the heirs of those
get to it
and more fair
came before us and as citizens of the United States of America.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Hey, thanks.
Thanks. Hey, thanks.
Hey, thanks. Heil. Hey, thanks. Hey, thanks.
Hey, okay, I'm done. Thanks.
If at least he was honest and said, look, let me be clear. We make stuff that goes on the stuff, these strap on the stuff that kills stuff. And that's our business. All right? And that is what keeps our economy working. So that's why we got to put people everywhere so we can continue to sell stuff. We sell this stuff. This is what we make is what we sell.
Curiously, I have a bunch of clips that address this. Actually, if I had clipped more from this guy, I would have addressed it even better, but I got just too many clips. But this guy's Bruce Gagnon, who's an young Republican turned radical progressive over the years, which is always interesting because you have these crazy perspectives. But here was the attention getter. This is a very short clip that got my attention where I had to say, wait a minute, I got to listen to what this guy's got to say.